Good morning, BookTube, YouTube. This is Johnny. Time to make another video here in Southwest Michigan. It is 9:10 in the morning here. It is June the 18th, 2025, coming to the end of another month. Yeah, it's a Wednesday. Writing in my diary. I'm on page 515. We'll be starting 516 when I'm finished making this video. Waking up to another day, a Wednesday. We had rain during the night, which we needed. Yeah, yesterday I mowed the front and backyard. It was 90 degrees, but it wasn't bad. I did in the late afternoon, and there was a breeze. And then I sat outside for a while, even during the late or early evening hours. But anyway, what this is a book haul. And I got some new books, old books. I have my timeline here, starting with my birth, 1952, born on August the 14th in Oakland, California. And yeah, sometimes I'm making these videos and I don't know where I'm at in my timeline. But I know today is June 18th, 2025. It is 9:11 a.m. Heylin, Michigan. And I will be, it says here, on the 2025, I'll be 73 years old, Lord willing. So, yeah, I thought I'd make a video this morning. I was going to read Christ's prayer before his passion, his death on the cross, expository sermons on John 17. This is volume 2. I'm still on John 17, verse 12, where it says, the text is, but the son of perdition. So I've been reading that, going to read that. So first of all, I'm going to show you what a new book. I got a new book. My daughter Beth and her family, her husband Andy, our grandchildren Louisa, Margaret, Jack, and Nora Jean sent me an Amazon gift card. And I bought 2 books. One book I got yesterday, Lower Than the Angels, A History of Sex and Christianity by Diarmaid, MacCulloch. And I have 2 other books by him. He wrote Christianity, the first 3,000 years by him. And he also wrote The Reformation, A History by Diarmaid, MacCulloch. The book I want to get is, he wrote a book called Silence, A History, that has been on my radar and I haven't gotten it. But this one looked interesting, and so I bought it, because who's not interested in sex? Anyway, but I want to read especially his part on monasticism, medieval views of sex. So I got that. As far as you're talking about Christianity, when I was downstairs and I was getting this, when I was in Bible college and seminary, throughout those years, I took classes on church history. I took seminars on English Reformation history. Studied all aspects of church history. And one of the textbooks was, I saw this and I just grabbed it just to show you the history of Christianity Readings in the History of the Church, Volume 1, Early and Medieval Church, Ray C. Petri, editor. Yeah, these are just documents, original writings or documents throughout church history. And so it's good to have, I like reading history through original documents, and even though I don't know French or German or Latin, I like reading, if you're reading church history, you can have the original documents, like different things. So I just thought, this is volume 2, The Church from the Reformation to the Present, by Clyde L. MacCulloch, editor. Just different things. I don't know. I decided to show it to you. These are textbooks. I can't remember if it was Bible college or seminary. We had to have these as textbooks. But I have, since I have when I was in Bible college, I got a bachelor's degree in Christian education and missions. And in seminary, I have a master's degree in theology and church history. As you all know, I'm into history. I'm always reading history, some kind of history. But I'm primarily American history, American Christianity, history of American Christianity. Right, I like reading modern European history, but I probably focus on American history, American Christianity in America. I like literary history, literary movements like early modernism, things like that. Anyway, as far as what I've been reading, well, first of all, I'm just going to show you books primarily. I think I won't talk about. I'll mention another book I got in the mail. That I got Patrick White. I bought this used Patrick White, A Life by David Marr. And the other book I bought with my Amazon gift card was David Marr edited Patrick White's letters. Now, as you all know, I've been reading Patrick White's little memoir, Flaws in the Glass, a self-portrait by Patrick White. I finished this, and the last part of it are like his journeys with his partner. Journeys, like I read one to the Holy Mountain, and the Holy Mountain is Mount Athos off the coast of Greece. It's the center of Eastern Orthodox spirituality, and his partner was Greek Orthodox, so they traveled there together. Patrick White was gay, homosexual. He was a homosexual, and so his partner was from Greece, from a Greece wealthy family, and he met his partner during the Second World War in Africa. Anyway, I won't go into that, but I wanted to read his biography because I wanted more about his life. Patrick White, that's a picture of when he's younger. This is when he was older. He was an asthmatic his whole life, and he eventually died of implications from that. I also want to show you his books. I have, now I bought these over the years used at thrift stores or used book sales. I don't have all his books, but these are Patrick White, The Cockatoos, Shorter Novels and Stories by Patrick White. And then Fringe of Leaves is a novel by him. Fringe of Leaves. Writers in the Chariot. He was also the winner of the Nobel Prize for Literature. This is another novel of his, Riders in the Chariot. And then he's famous for his novel, Voss. Patrick White, there's another picture of him in the back. Patrick White, one of his earlier novels, The Tree of Man, I don't have. But that's a picture of him. But he really was into cats and dogs. And he mentions that in his memoir. They really were into dogs and cats. Then I have the Vice Sector, a novel by Nobel laureate of 1973, Patrick White. And then The Eye of the Storm by Patrick White. Yeah, I haven't read these, but I collect writers. If I come across a writer that I read or come across a lot in my reading, or he's respected or revered by writers or critics, I tend to collect them. And I've heard about Patrick White for years as one of the great Australian writers. And I've looked at descriptions of his novels and they all look very fascinating, and so that's why I collect them. This is the Tri-Born Affair by Patrick White. So that's my Patrick White collection. As you know, next week is the Book Nook. Our library used bookstore has their used book sale, library used book sale. I hope I'll find some more Patrick White there this year. So that's Patrick White. Yeah, I start reading this for my nonfiction in the afternoon and early evenings and really enjoying it. I really enjoyed reading his memoir, and now I'm reading about his journeys. There's another picture of him. So he also has a picture of his partner, 40 years. There's a picture of his partner there with the knit cap on. Okay, those are the Patrick White collection. We're going on 12 minutes. And yeah, I really want to get his letters. When I read a biography, I like having the letters next to me, because as you're reading through his life, you can read letters that he wrote at that time period. Now I'm going to show you, well, first of all, I'll mention the books. I've mentioned nonfiction, I've mentioned the Christian books, and then as far as fiction, I've still been reading Nest in the Bones, stories by Antonio de Brente, translated from the Spanish by Martina Boner. And I want to get into The Suicides by Antonio de Brente. And also, as far as nonfiction, I found this at a Goodwill thrift store last week, and I've been reading these essays, Tolstoy's Dictaphone Technology and the Muse, edited by Stefan Burgess. I collect his writings, and he's edited other books on writing, and he wrote a book about writing memoirs, and he writes essays about technology and the book and reading and writing. He's very fascinating, and I've been really enjoying reading these essays as far as nonfiction, and I highly recommend this book. I recommend his books. Check them out. So I've been reading these essays. I've read half of this. I'm really enjoying this. So I've been, as far as my nonfiction, in the afternoons and early evenings. As far as fiction, I've been reading this Nest. I finished those other novels I've shown in the past, but I've been reading these short stories and want to get into reading suicides. Now, several years ago, but several weeks ago, a couple of weeks ago, I was at the Book Nook, the library used bookstore. I haven't gone this week because I'm going to be there next week. Monday, I helped set, next week, Monday and Tuesday, they set up for the library used book sale, and I've helped for many years. I've been helping there for at least 12, 13 years. And I've gotten a lot of books over the years. I don't think I've ever missed one that I can, well, they didn't have one during COVID. They didn't have one during COVID. But I've been doing that for many years, and as you know, I volunteered at the Book Nook for many years. But then when they remodeled the library and they had a new Book Nook, I just didn't want to do it anymore. The library was closed for a year. Well, it wasn't closed, but the Book Nook was closed for over a year, and I kind of just lost interest in doing it. But I do go there and look for used books, and I found these a couple of weeks ago, these at the Book Nook, the library used bookstore. As you know, I'm into Bob Dylan. I found this book, Revolution in the Air, Songs of Bob Dylan, Volume 1, 1957 to 1973. And this is by Clinton Heylin. And he looks at all, apparently Bob Dylan wrote over 600 songs, and he looks at these songs from the very earlier songs of Bob Dylan up until 1973. There's another volume. I bought this used for like $1, I think. And he looks at these songs and gives like a little analysis or biographical, or what the songs mean, maybe in the life of Bob Dylan at that time in his life. But as you know, I started reading this, but then I got realized I was reading too many books, but I got this from my Bob Dylan collection. Also, I collect the writings of Joy Williams, and these are a new collection of stories by the visiting Plivage. She always wears dark glasses, Joy Williams. Now, when I went to catalog this in my library thing, I already had a copy of this. So this will go in my car in a box, my doubles. But I collect her writings. She's been around a long time, and I collect her. Joy Williams is the author of 4 novels. The most recent, The Quick and the Dead, which I have, was a runner-up for the Pulitzer Prize in 2001. 4 other collections of stories, as well as Ill Nature, a book of essays that was a finalist for the National Book Critics Circle Award. Yeah, she's a very respected writer, Joy Williams. And then, as you know, I'm into American history, and I collect books on the president and one of the writers of the Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson. This is Flight from Monticello, Thomas Jefferson at War by Michael Kranish. Yeah, I collect books on Thomas Jefferson if I see them. And so I got this one for my Thomas Jefferson collect. There are certain presidents I collect. I've mentioned John Quincy Adams, John Adams, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Andrew Jackson, Ulysses Grant, Lincoln, Theodore Roosevelt, FDR. I dehauled all my Eisenhower, my Kennedy, Nixon, Reagan. I dehauled all those. But I do have biographies on Eisenhower, biographies on Well, I do have biographies on Lyndon B. Johnson. But I do have books on history of American politics, which covers certain presidents that I dehauled. I also picked up the book Nook, Antony Beevor, D-Day, the Battle for Normandy. I collect he's a famous historian, Antony Beevor, and if I see any books written by him, he's a historian, I collect him. He has Stalingrad, which I have, The Fall of Berlin, 1945, which I have, and he's written all kinds of history books, and I just collect certain historians. He wrote Paris after the Liberation, Stalingrad, Berlin, the downfall, the battle for Spain, which I have. I don't have Inside the British Army, but I looked for his books and I found this at the Book Nook. Yeah, I'm not really a Second World War, but I am into the First World War. I also picked up, as you know, like I said, I'm into American history, colonial history, early American history, and I found this, The Savage Neighbor, how the Indian War transformed early America by Peter Silver. Yeah, any books on early American history, books on the Indian Wars, French and Indian Wars, back I collect, so I got that. I also found a book on one of my, it's not a book, it's one of my favorite painters is Edward Hopper. There's a self-portrait of him, Edward Hopper, and this is one of his, these are, some of these are very famous paintings, like that's a very famous painting by Edward Hopper. I collect books on Edward Hopper, his paintings like that. I like how his paintings I just like the feel of them. Yeah, so this is a little slim volume. I have several volumes of his paintings. See anything else? Yeah, I really like Edward Hopper. I have biographies, all kinds of books on Edward Hopper. This one like that. Anyway, that's Edward Hopper. Edward Hopper, 1882 to 1967, Transformation of the Real. And there is some text in it, some written by Rolf Renner. And finally, as you know, I'm into politics, history of politics. This is What Was Liberalism? Past, Present, and Promise of a Noble Idea by James Traub. Yeah, any books on, if they're really cheap, I mean, look, if they looked, authoritative, or they seem to have content. This looked like giving a history of liberalism. What was liberalism? So I picked this up. Yeah, I like reading about liberalism, conservatism, left-wing politics, radicals, things like that. So those are the books I got at the Book Nook a couple of weeks ago. Hopper. It's a, and, oh, sorry. And Our Savage Neighbors. D-Day, Battle of Normandy, Antony Beevor. The book on Thomas Jefferson. Joy Williams. I have most of her books downstairs, and I didn't realize I had this one, so I'll put it in my car in the doubles. Yeah, now as you know, I don't listen to music much anymore because I've lost hearing in my left ear, and noise kind of bugs me, but I still listen to Bob Dylan. So I always reading about Bob Dylan. So that's it. That's what Book Nook used books and what I'm reading. Toy Stories, Dictaphone essays, and Flaws in the Glass. I finished reading. Now I'm reading about his journeys with his partner. Journeys. Yeah, he went to I haven't. Then he also. They traveled a lot throughout Europe in their later years. Get into the suicides this soon. Anthony de Vento. He was a. I think he was. Let's see here. Antony de Vento, 1922 to 1986, was born in Mendoza, Argentina. His novel Zuma, which has been translated, is one of my favorite novels I've read in recent years. I highly recommend him. So I've been reading his short stories, really enjoying them. Nest in the Bones. Reading the life of Patrick White, enjoying that for my nonfiction afternoons and early evenings. Yeah, I don't know when I'll get into reading Lower Than the Angels, the history of sex and Christianity, which I am interested in. See, it has nice illustrations in it. So I don't know when I'll get into reading this, but I do plan to in the future. His other books, The Reformation and History of Christianity, I haven't read them cover to cover. I've read certain sections of them since I have read many books on the Reformation. I have been reading History of Christianity for at least 50 years. So I read different sections, and I'm always reading on History of Christianity from different periods. Ancient history, medieval, time of the Puritans, evangelical pietism, 19th century American Christianity. So anyway, I will sign off. This is June the 18th. It is a Wednesday. It is 9:38 in the morning. Do pray you're all doing well. The world look in a terrible mess, but I won't go into it. No political commentary this morning. I'm just praying, come quickly, Lord Jesus. So it's going on 30 minutes. I do pray you're all doing well. Hope you're having a good reading week. Thank you for the new subscribers. If you got anything you want to know, any questions, just feel free to comment. And until next time, bye.